everyone. Welcome to Dial In, the podcast about customer service, automation, AI, contact centers, and everything in between. I'm your host, Gadi Shamia, the CEO and co-founder of Replicant, a company that automates customer service calls. And today I have a really exciting guest here. And the reason I'm so excited about my guest that I'll reveal in a second is that he is a person who got me into the customer service space 9 years ago. Until then, I was doing a lot of different things in the enterprise, and this one meeting with Tiago Paiva, the CEO and co-founder of Talkdesk, changed my course in life, got me into the exciting space of customer service technology, and set me on this journey that I'm still on. So welcome, Tiago, to the Dial In podcast.
Thanks, Gadi. It's good to be here.
So, I know how I think about Talkdesk when I was there a few years ago. So, side note, I was the chief operating officer of Talkdesk for 4 amazing years. But almost 5 years passed since. When you need to describe Talkdesk, how do you describe it today?
We've changed a lot since those early days, and you're talking about your journey. You really joined Talkdesk right at the beginning. We were still trying to figure out, and if you remember, even at that time, we didn't really position ourselves as contact center as a service, or the industry we're in was not contact center as a service. We're trying to figure out. So right now, we position ourselves as we are in the CCaaS space, which is contact center as a service. We are a cloud provider, an end-to-end solution that pretty much provides everything from voice, digital channels, and everything you need to support your customers. So think of us as the platform to provide service to your customers.
And how big is Talkdesk these days? Employee number. What are you able to share about number of customers, employees? Just give the audience a scale of the company today.
So we have a couple thousand customers, a couple thousand employees. So that's pretty much the size we are in right now.
Yeah, and Talkdesk, if for people who don't know, is for several years in a row one of Gartner's Magic Quadrant contact center service leaders. Definitely a company that you should think of when you think about your contact center strategy. And I say it, lovingly and truthfully, as a previous member of the journey. So, I of course know you for years, and there's a lot of questions I know the answer for, and I really want the audience to know the answer for as well. So tell us, maybe let's go all the way back to the days you started Talkdesk. There's a pretty unique story here. What was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll try to keep it simple for
no, take us back to your childhood bedroom where Talkdesk.
No, so I started Talkdesk right out of college. So I have an undergrad. I did my master's, and right after my master's, or during my master's, I was working for Procter & Gamble, and there were 2 things I really wanted. One of the things, and I was 23, 24 at the time. I really wanted to come to America. That was my life. My long life dream. I wanted to come to America, probably because of all the movies you usually watch in Portugal, and I'm from Portugal. And that was one thing. And the second thing, I really wanted to start a company. So those 2 things together drove me to try to do everything I could to really accomplish that dream, right? So one day, the story how Talkdesk started is one day, Twilio, which is a well-known San Francisco company. I'm sure most of your audience knows about them. They had an hackathon, a competition, right? Like build something using Twilio. The winner will get a MacBook Air, and that's it. That's how Talkdesk started. Like we did that. We built the first version of Talkdesk, which we didn't call it contact center at that time. And I was 23, maybe 24 at that time. I worked at Procter & Gamble, so I knew a little bit about contact centers, but everyone wants to be cool when they are 23. So we tried to come up with all these fancy names, all these fancy things. And in the end, what we built was what Talkdesk is today. Of course, much simpler. It's the same goal, but completely different product, of course. But we built that first version. We won the MacBook Air from Twilio. We were invited. I was invited to come to America and pitch Talkdesk, and I flew to America. I was supposed to stay here for a week. We won another pitch competition at that time at the Twilio conference in 2011, end of 2011, and I was invited to come to America and stay here live here and start the company here. And that's what I did. And I've been in America since 2011. Talkdesk started from that very little hackathon. We built the company we've built so far in the last, it's been what, 12 years now? 12 years.
Yeah, so the first years, maybe two questions about them. One is there's a story here for entrepreneurs. I think the company got almost no funding between 2011 to 2014. It was almost boot-started. And then maybe the other question is, how did you realize, so talk about the challenges there, but also when did you realize you built a contact center solution? I know it didn't happen right away, but when you realize that this is what you build and this is what you want to focus on for the next now 12 years.
Yeah, I think what we did at Talkdesk back in the beginning was very different than most people do now. Like right now, or at least in the last few years, funding has been everywhere. So companies just get a lot of money from day one. We didn't. So for the first 3 years, you just mentioned the date. So up until 2014, almost 2015, so mid 2014, we pretty much ran Talkdesk on $250,000. So that was the money we got from the incubator we received back in 2011. Was difficult, hindsight. I don't know if I would have done it again, but it is what it is, right? But it was difficult, taught us a lot of lessons, how to be frugal, how to run a company without spending too much money, how to do things with less. But it was difficult. It was also difficult because we were trying to do something back in 2011 that's never been done before, which was we were building what we call our contact center in the browser. That was the tagline, and that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to make it very simple. The problem is the technology was not there yet. WebRTC was not there. Google Chrome, if you go back 12 years, was not the norm. So most people were using Internet Explorer. They were using Mozilla, Firefox. So we had a lot of challenges from a technology perspective. So the first 3 years were rough. The first 3 years were rough. We started getting traction around 2014. And the truth is, once we figured out the technology, once we figured out the market, Talkdesk actually grew very, very fast. Talkdesk grew very fast. We got the first money from Jason Lemkin at SaaStr. That was mid 2014, and then beginning of 2015, we got the Series A from the FJ. And then, we still kept actually pretty lean for a long time, and we are still a very lean company. And that comes from those days of trying to do things with very little. Answering your second question, when did we get into contact center? I don't know exactly the date, but it was somewhere around 15, 16. I don't even think it was before that. I think we figured it out. I think we started hiring people. You were already at Talkdesk at that point. We were hiring people. We're learning. We're meeting a lot of people. And then I remember we started hiring people from the space. And then we realized, okay, this is really where we belong. Even though we were selling into the space, we didn't call ourselves that at that time. So it took a while. It took 4 or 5 years to figure out our own identity. I don't think we did a pivot. I think the product stayed the same and of course improved, like I said, and all of that. But for us to figure out our own identity, I think it took 4 or 5 years. It took a while.
When I met you in 2014, the tagline for Talkdesk, which I still think was brilliant, was create a contact center in 5 minutes. It was such a great tagline because it was shocking for anybody that knew the space and thought of creating a contact center is something will take 9 to 12 months, and all of a sudden somebody is mentioning 5 minutes. Who came with this tagline?
I think that the story of that tagline is, I think at some point around that time, 2014, 15, around those years, I went to a pitch competition, either TechCrunch or one of the other pitch competitions. And I was trying to explain Talkdesk, and I kept saying phone service, phone system, sales phone system. So I had all these things. And then one day I remember I was just so tired. I remember where I was sitting in the corner. I was just so tired. And they were doing these rapid fire questions. And they asked me, Tiago, what does Talkdesk do? And I just said, look, we can create a call center in 5 minutes. And all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, that's really good. And then I'm like, okay, maybe there's something here, So that's how it started. And then we put some billboards on the 101, and the message really resonated. And then we had partnerships, like we partnered with Salesforce very early on at that time with their desk solution and Service Cloud. So it resonated and it worked. And that's when we started, when when it clicked. Let's put it that way. Like, that's when it clicked. But that's where the message came from. Is sometimes it's just something simple is what works.
Mm-hmm. And what you mean think about contact centers and how they change? If you think of the customers you interacted with in 2010, 2011, and some of the initial customers were also pretty big, even before Talkdesk was ready for them, compared to what customers want today. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen from then to today?
It's so interesting. So the industry has changed a lot in many ways, and we can talk about AI and open AI and everything that's happening, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But what it's very interesting. So one thing we've done was we were targeting very small customers at that point, right? That's where the call center in 5 minutes came from. It's very easy. Sign up on the website, ready to go, and you can be up and running. Over time, we evolved to be more of an enterprise solution. Right now, most of our customers are enterprise. We have a sales team. We have a sales engineering team. So we have a complete set of teams and products that we can sell into an enterprise versus before was a very simple product. But the interesting thing is, like, one thing that has not changed much, and let me start with that, is there's still so many customers that are using on-premise solutions. They are using their old Cisco's, they are using their old Avayas, and all they want is to go to the cloud and have a solution that works, that can replace their products that they are maintaining, and then start innovating. So many companies are still at that stage, and that hasn't changed. That's been the norm for 12 years. There's still a lot of customers on-prem, and there's still a lot of customers that want to come to a solution in the cloud. So that's the first thing. One thing that changed big time in the last 10, 12 years, the first one from an industry perspective, I think people care a lot more about customer service now. I don't think it was the case 12 years ago. 12 years ago, customer service was seen as a cost, just a cost. Doesn't matter what you have, just spend as little as possible. And now I think through all of us as consumers, we will drop a brand if the customer service if the support is not good. We know that. I'm sure you've done that. I've done that, and you just move to the next one. And customers or companies know that, so they invest a lot more in customer service, and they care about the technology. They care about making sure their agents are empowered. So that's probably been the biggest change, is this mentality of, oh, I just need to have this, to now. Don't get me wrong, cost still matters. Cost matters. Everyone has a budget. Everyone needs to get their spending within a budget. But there's this mentality of, okay, I need to provide great service to our customers. Let's see how we get there. So that changed a lot in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I see it too. And on this note, what do you hear from customers more commonly? What are the goals that they have? What are the things they focus on today?
So it has changed probably in the last 2-3 years, right? Like, and we all know we lived through the COVID times where every company was growing very fast. You were hiring. You had less issues with spending. Things have changed a little bit, right? Like now, everything is more expensive, right? Like customer service agents are more expensive. Everything around us becomes more expensive. So companies try to be more thoughtful about the money they are spending. And sometimes the money they're spending, I don't mean cutting down on software or cutting down on people, but how to empower these people more, how to empower the agents they have so they are more productive, how to empower, let's say you have 200 agents, how to make sure those 200 agents are focused on the right things. And when they need to be talking with the customer or answering an email or a chat, they have all the tools and information they need so they can do it faster, so they can actually have these agents be a lot more productive and don't need to hire, 20% more, 30% more. So that's a team. It's been a team over the last few years, I think, but now about productivity, about empowering becomes a big topic right now. And of course, AI is always in every single conversation right now, with all the technology and all the advances we've seen in the last 6 months, 12 months. It's early, but it's been big change.
I know you're an idea man, and I remember you going with a notebook and writing, pencil to paper, all your ideas. Is there any favorite idea, something you thought about and worked really well, that in the last kind of decade that came from like idea on a notebook to fruition? And is there any idea you want to mention that you tried and failed miserably?
Yeah, I still do that. So I still have the notebooks and I keep writing. I think the best decision we made, and again, it's not just my decision, it's a team decision, but the best decision we made that probably came from that notebook is 3-4 years ago, we had to decide which route we're going to go in Talkdesk. Are we going to go the route of be really good at just voice or email or chat and kind of partner with everyone else in terms of WFM, QA, QM, reporting, you know, all the things that the contact center needs. And we've decided at that time, no, what we are doing, even though it's hard, we're going to build all these solutions around the contact center in-house. And that was a tough decision. It's not very common. I don't think anyone else has done it on the contact center space. Most people partner or they have acquired other companies and they kind of partner, like they put them together. So we've done that. Was a tough decision, but I think in the end, it's been a great decision because we now can go to a customer and really provide them a set of tools that we couldn't otherwise. There's no integrations needed. We still partner, don't get me wrong, we're still very heavy on partners, but the customer has the choice to either go with our WFM, we either go with our QA and QM and reporting without having to deal with professional services on integrations. And that was a decision that it seems obvious right now because everyone tries to have their own tools, but at that time was not common. And I think that was a decision that worked very well. We call it end-to-end solution, a single pane of glass where you really log into Talkdesk and you see you have everything there. You don't need to go into log in into 10 different applications. What didn't work, there's a lot that didn't work. But maybe the one that came to mind is I had this idea of customers, they have the software, but they also, it's a struggle to hire a lot of people, right? So I had this idea of this marketplace, like call it Upwork or Odesk back in the day, or I don't know how the names changed, but to be able to go to Talkdesk and say, look, I need 10 agents, and I click buttons, click, and 10 agents jump into the Talkdesk platform. They start answering calls. So we tried that for a few years. Didn't work. You know what I learned? It's tough in a company when you are trying to sell too many different things. So you know, it was not our core product. It's not even software. So the Talkdesk was not ready to have that working. I still think the idea could have worked at that time, but it didn't work. So that's an idea that we just scratched and moved on.
Yeah, this idea brings a huge smile to my face because first I remember many discussions around this idea starting probably in 2016.
Yeah.
And this idea was, and we had a lot of back and forth. It's not going to work. It's going to work. It's not going to work. So definitely interesting. And in a way, over time I realized that part of the reason that drove you to this decision or this idea is still very solid, because what we heard from Talkdesk customers from day one was our biggest issue is we just don't have enough agents. We can't hire them, we can't train them, we can't retain them. We don't have enough agents. At 2016, there was no option. Like you sold software that required having agents. If the agent were not there, the software was useless. And customers would keep asking for something we didn't have. And the only option before AI automation got to the level they were was to give you agents. So the logic, I think this is still today the number one problem of every contact center. And I think in 2016, the only way to solve it was through agent marketplace. So Tiago, I thought you were going to mention that, although we didn't discuss this before. I find it inspiring because that was absolutely the most important problem back then. It was just the only available solution. Speaking of agents, what do you see changes in the agent space and the relation between agent and technology? I know that you mentioned agents are harder to hire; they want more money now. But what changed in the agent dynamics? I know you spend a lot of time in contact centers, visiting and seeing and talking with agents. What are you learning about the agent's behavior today?
I think it's not an agents per se, but it's the world we live in right now, right? Like everything we live through that. Everything is more expensive right now. Cost of living is more expensive. There's a lot of opportunity, especially during COVID. There was a lot of companies hiring. I think we had the record hiring in tech in the last 2-3 years. And I'm not just talking about startups only. I'm talking about the Amazons and the Googles and the Facebooks. They hired, I don't know, 50,000, 1 million people. So I think all of that caused everything to just be harder. And it's not necessarily agents, they're just people just like us, and they have their job, and they fight for the best conditions, like we all do, right? So I don't think that changed. I think what changed is what the agent role needs to be now in an era where AI, people say, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. I'm just, it's that AI is going to replace everything, right? AI is going to replace the agents. AI is going to replace everything agents do and we do, and no people are needed anymore for anything with AI. So if you think about that, like what the agent needs to really do, and I was thinking about like, what word can I describe that an agent can do that maybe AI is not able to do yet, right? Like there's many things. And I think what the agent can do is, agent can have empathy that it's very difficult to beat when you are talking with a machine. Call it or not, it's a machine, right? Like, and we are talking with a machine. So I think the role of the agent changed. I think what the agent is going to be involved, it's going to be more sensitive, it's going to be more important, it's going to be high level stress calls. And I actually remember, Gadi, we talked about this for many years, and you had like a nice 4x4 where you had at that time wasn't AI, was chats and voice and digital, and you say if it's high stress and high sensitivity, it's always going to be a call to a call instead of a chat. And I think right now we can do that same diagram, but say if it's high sensitive, it's in a rush, if you need something solved now, you can still do AI, of course, but I think you will want the empathy of a person on the other side trying to give you options versus just giving you standardizing options that AI gives you now. But again, AI is developing so fast, so everything I'm saying by the time you release this podcast might have changed. But I think right now it's the role of the agent changes, and I still think they play a very important role in the customer service space. But it needs to adapt and it needs to change.
Yeah, and I feel companies missing on this opportunity to understand that their agents are, if they train them well, if they hire the right agent and pay them well, can be true brand ambassadors. And if you can automate using AI, you can free up agents to do what's really matters, which you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're sitting here and talking with one another, and it's dynamic and it's chemistry, and you cannot fake it with a machine. And I don't think it's going to be easy to fake it, because back in our heads, we always going to know that we're talking with a machine. And even if the machine is going to pretend really well to be a human, it's still going to be a machine. And part of the principle we're using is we're trying not to pretend. We're trying not to mislead you, because you need to know you're speaking with a machine. The machine is about efficiency, and it's not about being friendly or being nice. You can be nice with other people. Another question I'm curious about. Again, you started this world not knowing anything about customer service and contact centers, and of course now 12 years you're an expert. What is a lesson you remember? Maybe a conversation with a customer or a meeting with a customer that is just a big lesson that you're still kind of using or remembering that you didn't know about the space before.
I'll tell you my biggest lesson. My biggest lesson over all these years is, when you are selling, and from my perspective, right, like we build software, we sell software. The most important thing, and still is true now, and it almost doesn't seem obvious, but when I say, you're going to say it's obvious, is no matter what products you build, no matter what functionality you build, or what you offer, AI or WFM or voice, or the relationship between our customer and their customer is the most important thing ever. And if you do anything to get in the middle of that, and by meaning of that I mean your software is not working, or you answering the wrong thing, or you having the wrong experiences, it impacts the customer a lot more than it seems at first. Because if you see it from a software perspective, it just say, look, it was 5 minutes, right? Oh, we had this issue 5 minutes, or our AI bots, whatever you want to call it, didn't give the right answer. But if you think from our customer's perspective, they might have just lost the customer because of those 5 minutes, or they might have lost an upsell because of those 5 minutes. So I think the biggest lesson learned, which seems very obvious, is when we take so much responsibility for our customers to trust us to communicate with their customers, and we need to value that trust. We need to cherish that trust, and we need to make sure we deliver, and we cannot fail no matter what. Like, we are in the business, me, you, we are in the business of, we just cannot fail, and we need to be working all the time because our customers depend on us. And I think it seems obvious. Again, like I said, it's very obvious. But when you live through that and you live through some of these experiences, you realize how impactful what you do in your customers' lives and people's lives.
Absolutely, a super mission critical product and service, and it can never be down. It can never not function. It can never have low voice quality. And you know, we know it too. Everything gets escalated directly to CEOs, and there's even more responsibility than you have sometimes when you run marketing programs, because these are customers and these are relationships you already have. So going back to your notebook, if you kind of think of the next couple of years, and I know a lot of things are changing with AI. What's in the notebook which is not confidential about the future of the contact centers?
Well, I don't think I can share. The notebook is a secret note. No, I'm joking. The notebook is just where I put all my ideas, and some make sense, some do not make sense. Of course, it's top of mind. A lot of top of mind for me right now is when you think about the contact center of the future, how does it look like, right? Because 12 years ago, I do think we sat and we realized what the contact center of the future was, and we built it. And we had this interaction these last 10 years of a really good run, and still going, right? Like, things don't change one day to the other like that, but they change over time. And I think the move to the cloud, the move to an end-to-end platform, the move to AWS, to Google, and all of that, it's all new in the last 10 years. So now we need to think what's on top of that for the next 10 years. So that's a lot what I think of is contact center of the future, how AI plays a role in what we are doing. Is AI replacing, helping? And I think it's a combination of both. I think there's a lot that AI can do. But yeah, it's a lot of that, like contact center of the future.
You know, and we are maybe I want to get a different angle on AI and large language models, ChatGPT, etc. You know, a lot of our focus at Replicon is using AI to automate customer service calls. And I'm curious about what are some of the aspects of AI and large language models that are not around automating calls that you are interested in or working on or launching or about to launch. So looking for a different angle on AI and how you planning to use it.
So I'll give you a few examples. So we've launched, I think since the beginning of the year, probably 10 plus different features using OpenAI. So we use OpenAI on Talkdesk now. And it's very interesting because a lot of the ideas that we are talking about right now, they are actually not new ideas, but what they are is it's a lot easier to implement and a lot easier to make it happen. I'll give you an example. So we have this feature in Talkdesk for many years. That's the summary of a call. So an agent talks with the customer and they have a conversation. And then at the end, the agent has to write notes. And instead of writing notes, there's an automatic system that transcribes the conversation, reads the conversation, and summarizes for you. So we've had that for several years, but it's so hard to maintain those models. It's so hard to understand what to write. Many times it was mistaken, or other times didn't make sense. What OpenAI allows us to do is literally the moment OpenAI came out, we plug that into our summary system, and we replace that feature in literally maybe an hour, 2 hours. And all of a sudden, we have an amazing summary where the customers, every single customer at Talkdesk, when they have a phone call, they just have the summary right there, and the summary is pretty much perfect. The summary works every single time, and it happens really fast. So again, not a new idea, but something that allowed to be built much faster. And I can go on and on and on. For example, we have another product which is Agent Assist. We try to empower the customer. And we empower the agent with information about the customer. And the way it works is we get all this information, we put it in a model, and then every time the conversation is going in real time, we tell the agent, hey, this is maybe something you should say. This is something you should do. You should do that. And again, we had to build all those models. We had to build everything in-house. And with OpenAI, we just plug that into Talkdesk. The system is still there. The system works. It helps that we are cloud solution with APIs and everything. So we just plug the system there, and all of a sudden we kind of have the same goal, but much better and much easier to implement. So there's many ideas like this. It made everything so much faster and so much better for the customer. That's what we've seen so far on AI. Of course, we have a lot of ideas to really take the contact center to the next level. We have a lot of ideas to really change how things work, but so far that's a lot of what I've seen.
Yeah, I can relate to it because our experience is very similar. We've been running automation for 3.5 years now, and run millions of calls. And it's not that we are doing anything dramatically different today. It just all of a sudden much better, and we can resolve things in fewer turns, high resolution rate. So in a way, I think of it as this brain just got a massive upgrade and went through 12 years of school, and now it's just significantly smarter. So we see the same thing. All the ideas now can be realized in a higher quality. Awesome. That was really a great conversation. I think our last segment is what we call the speed dial, which I'm going to ask you some questions and look for really quick answers. Some questions you know about, some questions I'm going to make on the fly because it's going to be more fun. So let's start speed dial. What's your morning drink?
It changed recently. It used to be coffee. Now it's a shake with some authentic greens on it.
I knew I'm going to get an interesting answer from this one. Which company do you think excels in customer service? Which is a brand you like, do you think that does really well with customer service?
I think a company that I have experienced in a personal way, and I see it from a customer perspective, is Memorial Healthcare. Healthcare is investing heavily in customer service, and we see that when you have a right leader in the company, you can do amazing things for patients. So I see both impacting the patient and really providing great customer service all around.
Thank you for the shout out. It's great to not think about Nordstrom or any of the traditional companies, but actually as people provide care to customers and really care about what they do. So the agent of the future, if they need to focus on one personality trait, what should it be?
Empathy. I think I mentioned that one. Yeah. I think it's empathy. Empathy is the one that you cannot beat. Relationships, empathy, and making sure you are being empathetic to the customer.
Now, if you're not doing what you do now, if you're not the CEO of Talkdesk, what would you do?
Gadi, I don't know. You actually sent me that that question I had, and I still don't know. My life has been Talkdesk forever, so I'll need a lot more than a few days to think about that one. But so far, that's Talkdesk only.
I go off tangent on speed dial, but we actually had this conversation maybe 100 times in a year of friendship, and I thought that you can be an amazing investor and run a PE or run a hedge fund. So this is some job that I have in mind for you. And one time I asked you, hey, if you just have all the time in the world, don't you just want to go on vacation, read books? Like, I said, no, I just want to continue running Talkdesk. So genuinely, not on the podcast, not for any PR purposes. When I asked Tiago what he really want to do, he said, I don't know what to do if I'm not running Talkdesk. So this is what I want to continue doing. So for any Talkdesk customer, you just know that Tiago is all in. What book are you reading now?
So the one I'm reading now, I'm reading a few, but the one that's really being impactful is the Play Nice But Win by Michael Dell. It's a story of selling Dell, merging with EMC, beginnings of Dell. I like to read. It's a biography pretty much, so I really like to read biographies. I've read this book before. I'm reading it again, and I think it's pretty amazing.
And from all you may not know it, Tiago is a super avid reader and probably read thousands of books since the time I met him. Which book impacted you the most? If there's one book that someone in the space, technology, customer service need to read that made a big impact on you, still remember which one is that?
There's a book that I always go back when I don't have a solution for a big problem, or when I have big problems and I don't have solutions that I can see and it seems like the end is near. I always go back to The Art Thing About Art Things from Ben Horowitz. I still haven't found a book that I feel like it's more real, that tells stories as they are. I've had the chance to talk with some of the people in the book, and it's in real life. And I still go to that book even today. And that book is many years old right now, but I still go to that book, and I still think it's the best book for what we do.
Mm-hmm. All right, AI, destroy the world or do amazing things for the world?
I think it's going to do amazing things. Yeah, I'm on the amazing things camp.
Yeah. Good. Welcome to the camp. And my last question for the day: who is a brilliant speaker in customer service you would like to see on a podcast? Time to give a shout out to somebody you think is interesting and insightful.
Yeah, I think so. I talk with a lot of people, and I could name a lot of names. We have amazing customers, so I have to give a shout out to them. I think I mentioned Memorial Healthcare as an example of a company really moving things. So Jeffrey Sturman is the Chief Digital Officer of Memorial Healthcare. He's an amazing speaker. He really sees the future, and he really wants to change things, and he works with these vendors, not just Talkdesk. He works with these vendors to get to that point. So if you can have a conversation with him, is great. He's the Chief Digital Officer of Memorial Healthcare. They're doing an amazing job, and the company is just doing very well.
Yeah, that's amazing recommendation. I'm personally very passionate about the healthcare space. It's such a complex space, and there's so many opportunities to create small joy for people in tough situations that are missed all the time. So seeing people genuinely care about that is always heartwarming. I love Mayo Clinic for this too. As a hospital system, they do a great job running an efficient business, knowing that their customers are people that usually need care and don't want to deal with bureaucracy. So that's amazing. Thank you for that. So Tiago, really, thank you very much for this amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for joining. Thank you everybody for dialing in. And until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gadi.